Hello and welcome to Brewers Daily, part of the Fan Arch Podcast Network. This episode is brought to you by Kalshi. Use promo code FANARCHBASEBALL to get $10 when you trade 10. I'm Dave Gasper. Lots to get to here on a Monday show of Brewers Daily. The Brewers take 2 of 3 in Arizona. We'll talk about that. Another injured pitcher for the Brewers. Got to get in there. Also, the All-Star rosters are out, and a couple of Brewers make it, but some that maybe we were expecting did not. We'll get into that as well, and then look ahead to this 5-game series against the St. Louis Cardinals. But we got to start with the weekend series here in Arizona. The Brewers take 2 of 3. They play some extra innings, and they have a kind of a wild game on Friday night there against the Diamondbacks that they do miraculously end up winning, which is great. And then on Sunday, despite a short start from Brandon Sproat, who dealt with pitching, pitch count issues, they were able to manage and get a big home run from Jake Bauers to put them ahead, get an insurance run from Joey Ortiz to keep them on top, and they're able to win 3-2 on Sunday. So overall, I mean, again, you win the series. That is the important part there for the Brewers. That's what you got to do. Take 2 of 3. As Meatloaf, once told us, 2 out of 3 ain't bad. You'll take it. You'll be happy with it, especially being on this road trip here, being in the middle of this grind that is leading into the All-Star break here. 18 games in 17 days. The Brewers are right in the middle of that right now. And now they've got 5 games coming up here against the Arizona Cardinals, St. Louis Cardinals. 5 games against the St. Louis Cardinals, and then a couple against Pittsburgh to wrap up the first half here. But again, you keep winning these series. You're able to keep the Chicago Cubs and all those other teams at bay. You're able to stay on pace. You're able to keep those teams at arm's length and still feel pretty comfortable and still feel pretty good about where this team is headed. Even if you're not playing your best baseball, I mean, still the runners in scoring position has been an issue for this team that continued here throughout this Arizona series. So the fact that you still have those runners in scoring position issues and you take 2 out of 3 still in those games, that bodes very well for this team for when they do finally get clicking on all cylinders. They're not quite there yet, but still, you take 2 of 3, you're happy with it, you move on to St. Louis. But who will not be moving on to St. Louis is Brandon Woodruff, sadly. He exited his start on the 4th of July with dead arm again. With the shoulder inflammation, he's got a cyst kind of around the same spot, just like he had before. A very similar injury to what he had before when his arm all of a sudden lost all velocity. And now it's the same kind of thing again. Apparently, this is something that the doctors, the Woodruff's doctor, kind of expected would be happening at some point again. And, perhaps maybe not so soon. I mean, he did miss 6 weeks. After he did get that cyst drained, missed 6 weeks, then came back, and it's been a couple of weeks really since then. So it's been about 2 months, just a little bit over, since he first had that issue and first had it drained, and now it's back again. So my guess is it's probably going to be kind of something similar, maybe another 6 weeks for Woodruff, but still, similar injury. The velo just all of a sudden started to dip quickly there in the 4th inning. And it was not a pretty sight. I mean, he's walking off the mound and he seems certainly very upset and dejected, because I think it's becoming more and more clear here that Brandon Woodruff is coming towards the end of the road in his career. His shoulder just doesn't seem to be able to keep up with the rigors of a full season anymore. Just with how he's been able to make it through these past couple of years. I mean, it's been amazing that we've seen him get back to pitching and see him still be really good, even when he has incredibly diminished stuff. Obviously, when he's at his best now, this stuff is still diminished from what it was prior to his surgery, prior to the initial injury. But even still, even when this stuff has been diminished and you're out there, it's like that velo is way, way down. This is not good. You're going to have to get him out of there. He's still pitching effectively somehow, which is incredible. But it's just a testament to just how good of a pitcher that he is. Chris Hook told me one time when I was talking to him for the story I put together at Brew Crew Ball that the rest of the young guys on the staff may not realize it, but perhaps one day like they'll all look back and we'll all look back and realize Brandon Woodruff is on the Mount Rushmore of Brewers pitching. I mean, he is a top 4 Brewers pitcher that they've had in franchise history, and he is that talented of a guy, that great of a pitcher. And it's just sad because you can kind of tell this is likely, there's probably not going to be too many more years left of Brandon Woodruff being, a major league pitcher. Like when the injuries keep popping up like this, he can only make it a handful of starts before the shoulder kind of gives out again. It's not a good sign for the longevity. I mean, he may be towards the end there, just with what his shoulder has. Obviously, the Brewers haven't said that. That's just my speculation. But when you have this kind of dead arm thing that pops up so quickly once again, the shoulder being there, like it doesn't seem like it's something that is, especially at Woodruff's age, at Woodruff's point in his career, it doesn't seem like that's something that's just going to all of a sudden reverse and get better. So that is certainly a concern. Woodruff's such a valuable piece to this team, to this rotation, and once again, the Brewers are not going to have him out there for a lengthy stretch of time. How long it ends up being, we'll see, but it's a very similar injury to what it was before. That cost him 6 weeks, so wouldn't surprise me for it to be around 6 weeks again for Brandon Woodruff, but certainly deflating for him, deflating for this rotation and this whole team because they know that they need him. And when he's out there, he gives you a very, very good chance to win every single time. So to not have him out there, to have him kind of be back on the IL again, it really is something that just kind of is going to take a toll on you, especially there as a player. So you hate to see it, but Woodruff back on the IL. Drew Rom was recalled to take his place on the active roster, with the Brewers needing another bullpen arm there. All right, but the Brewers do have some games coming up here against the Cardinals, and you can trade every single game on Kalshi, by the way. And when you use that promo code FANARCHBASEBALL, you can get $10 when you trade 10. So, looking ahead to this matchup here that the Brewers have with the St. Louis Cardinals starting a 5-game series. Look, the Brewers have been able to keep up their winning ways. The St. Louis Cardinals, they've been surprisingly, spunky here in the NL Central race, and they're still kind of hanging around it a little bit. I mean, more so than the Reds, who was everyone's pick to click, more so than the Pirates, who was also everyone's kind of pick to click here. Cardinals sitting 7.5 games out of the NL Central there. They're at 47-40, so I mean they're 7 games above 500. They're just a little bit behind the Cubs, so they are in the thick of this here a little bit. So chance for the Brewers maybe to put them away in this series. I mean, it's 5 games, a lot can happen. You can really swing the standings there in a 5-game series. So very important matchup here coming up, and the Brewers obviously going to be looking to maybe deal that kind of a knockout blow. And for the Brewers, I'm looking at this game, and I'm looking at the Brewers over 1.5 runs to win this game by over 1.5 runs on the spread. Brewers are currently trading at 39%. To be able to do that, that means a $100 trade pays out $246 with a win. And on Kalshi, you're trading against peers in a live market, meaning there's no house. And as the probability changes, you can buy in and out of your position. For a limited time, download the Kalshi app and use this promo code FANARCHBASEBALL to get $10 when you trade 10, Kalshi, Kalshi, trade on anything. All right, so the All-Star rosters were announced this weekend on the 4th of July at like 6 o'clock at night. Interesting timing choice there by Major League Baseball because totally everyone was focused on that at 6 o'clock on the 4th of July on America's 250th birthday. totally what everyone was dealing with. But the All-Star rosters come out, and the Brewers have 2 All-Stars that end up making it. Jacob Misiorowski, no real surprise there. And then William Contreras makes the All-Star game as the reserve catcher there for the Brewers. And I mean, Contreras has been having a solid season here. You know, especially with that middle finger being fixed with surgery over the offseason. He hasn't had that be an issue at all, which is really, really good for him, because last year it seemed to basically sap him of all of his power. I mean, Contreras is hitting 295 on the season, 9 homers, 51 RBIs, 112 OPS plus, obviously providing great defense behind the plate, great pitch calling. So Contreras is having a really good season. So very understandable he makes it as an All-Star. Slightly surprising, though, that Bryce Terang was not included here on the list of All-Stars. Luis Arraez makes the team at second base instead for the San Francisco Giants. But Bryce Terang is 14th in baseball, or 14th in the league here among all position players in WAR, and he did not make the All-Star team. And there's certainly more than 14 position players that make this All-Star roster. So, little surprising, a little bit of a snub there for Bryce Terang. I understand that he has been in maybe a little bit of a slump at the plate lately. Hasn't been going, super well. Obviously, Contreras has been doing a bit better at the plate of late, but come on, for Bryce Terang, the defense he provides and the offense and the slug that he's now providing, I mean, that's ridiculous to not have him be in there as an All-Star. Perhaps he'll get named as an alternate, if someone else drops out. There's generally not as much changeover on the position player side, however, for the All-Star game. For the pitching staff, there's generally a lot of changeover. A lot of guys who get named and then end up dropping out of the All-Star game. So we'll see if that ends up happening to get Terang in there for his first All-Star nod, but if not this year, it's going to be at some point soon here that Terang becomes an All-Star. It should have been this year, but so far it is not. Same thing with Kyle Harrison. Kyle Harrison, I think, is a very good bet was a very good candidate to be an All-Star. He did not get named to the initial roster here. Now, that also could change because, as I just mentioned, with the pitching staff, there are a lot of players who are going to drop out, and they will end up needing to be replaced. Jacob Misiorowski actually could be one of them, because the way things line up for the pitching staff, Misiorowski is slated to pitch on Sunday. That's Sunday before the All-Star game, which would be, or which would make him ineligible to pitch in the All-Star game. So they would remove him from the roster and put someone else on. So it wouldn't surprise me is if the replacement for Misiorowski would end up being Kyle Harrison instead, because Kyle Harrison is certainly more than deserving of being an All-Star. You look at the numbers, you look at the stats that he's put up, 100% deserving of being an All-Star this season, but not named to the initial group. But I have to imagine at some point here, he is going to end up being named as a replacement. For this to only be the 2 guys, I mean, the Brewers are a first-place team. They have been one of the best teams in all of baseball, one of the best records. For them to only have 2 All-Stars is really kind of incredible. I mean, the success that they've had, you'd think there would be more that they would want named to this team if it is actually about the stars and who's performing the best. But I don't make the rules. I don't make the rosters, but I'm just saying. But that's what I think it should be. But instead, we're going to have a billion players from Los Angeles and Atlanta and Toronto and New York and all of that. All those guys are going to be able to make the All-Star team. But Milwaukee, you're going to be limited to just 2 here because large markets need theirs. Absolutely. So totally get that. Totally not salty about it whatsoever. But anyways, the Brewers taking on the St. Louis Cardinals here this week. 5 games in 4 days, making up for a rained-out game earlier on in the season. So that just kind of adds to the toughness of the stretch here for the Brewers. And look, I mean, this is going to be a very tough series because obviously the Cardinals have been playing a lot better than most expected. They're currently sitting at a 42.6% chance to make the playoffs. Meanwhile, the Brewers are at 98.4%, by the way, by Fangraphs. But for this series, in terms of pitching matchups, it is looking like you're going to have Shane Drowan. Shane Drowan's going to be on the bump here today against Dustin May. And then the doubleheader coming up. Jacob Mizorowski is going to be pitching game 1, is what the plan is. And game 2 is currently listed as TBA, but I would highly anticipate Robert Gasser getting called back up to be the 27th man for that doubleheader to start that game. I think that's been the Brewers' plan all along here. When they sent him to rookie-level Arizona on his optional assignment, they can call him back up to be the 27th man. They don't have to wait those extra however many days to call him back up. So Gasser is the 27th man for that doubleheader for Game 2. Does make a lot of sense. And then after that, you got Kyle Harrison that's going to be pitching on Wednesday. And then Thursday, again, currently listed as TBA, but also that's right around when you'd be expecting Logan Henderson to be coming back from the injured list. As Pat Murphy has talked about, he has made his rehab starts with AAA Nashville, so his next start going to be in the big leagues. And so the way that rest kind of lines up, in all likelihood, that's going to be Logan Henderson there to be in the rotation for the final game of that series. And you know, I think this timing for Henderson coming back and for Gasser as well is going to be so critical with Brandon Woodruff now hitting the injured list, because the question, you know, kind of was like, oh, are they going to go with a 6-man rotation with all this group? You know, how are they going to be able to handle everyone and get everyone slotted in? When Henderson comes back, when you have Gasser there, how are you going to fit everyone in there? With Woodruff going back on the IL for, you know, who knows how long, that does kind of make it easier to slot in your Logan Henderson coming back and your Robert Gasser. It does make it easier to fit those guys into the mix and keep Drowan in there as well, because Shane Drowan has been pretty good in that starting rotation. So you can keep all these guys in there. You can mix and match. You can do some tandems still if you want to, do some piggyback starts. But it's a way to get everyone their reps in there. And, you know, it's great to see Logan Henderson coming back. We're in all likelihood going to see Robert Gasser coming back here as well. So the rotation, even though they lose Brandon Woodruff here, the rotation still has so much depth to it that they are able to withstand that loss here a little bit. So hopefully the Brewers can kind of keep it rolling here. It's the last week before the All-Star break, the All-Star game, Home Run Derby. You got the draft coming up as well. It's going to be a busy time. It's going to be a busy week, and we'll be covering all of it here. So much to get to on Brewers Daily, so be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. Get notified every single time a new episode drops. Follow me on Twitter as well, at dgasper24. Lots of great content going up over there. And appreciate all of you watching and listening, and we'll see you again next time for another episode of Brewers Daily.